close that up, and we're going to cross over the road to one of the most spectacular places in Scotland. Hello everyone, we've arrived here at the mighty Buachaille Etive More, this fantastic mountain just at the entrance to Glencoe. An awesome view. We parked the night at the ski centre and we've driven about a mile to a little car park here, and a short walk from the car park, which is nice. It's nice to have a short walk to find such a beautiful view, because sometimes the walk can be quite a long way with all this stuff. But this is a magnificent view. You'll see many photographs of this view if you look at landscape photography, and we found this place and we're going to give an attempt at a watercolour. What's so beautiful about this scene is that you have this huge mountain in front of us, but there's also a wonderful stream, river, that can be really wild when it's really wet. So I don't know how much water's in there, so that's going to depend on how good the composition is. Sometimes it's raging, absolutely torrents of water, but it's been quite a dry summer. We have had quite a lot of rain recently, so I'm hoping that there's a fair amount of water coming down the stream over the waterfalls there. So it's just a question of finding the right spot. There are a few people around today. It's a really popular place to photograph, and lots of visitors come and have a look at it. So I don't want to get in people's way either. So that's a quite important part, because I'm going to be standing here a long time and it's a bit irritating for other photographers to come along and I'm in their view. So I've got to be a bit courteous to people. That's quite nice. Right, we've chosen the spot and it's going to be right here. There's a very popular camera photography spot there, so I don't really want to be there because there's going to be a queue of people after me, so they're getting very frustrated. So we're going to push it off just to the left a bit, and we're going to have this view here. But one of the benefits of painting is that I don't necessarily have to paint what I see. This isn't necessarily the perfect spot, but I can shift things around a bit. I can shift the mountain to the right slightly, and a tree there, and so move it around a bit. So I don't necessarily have to have the same sort of spot as a photographer does, which is really handy. But it is lovely. There is a lot of noise in the background. There's a huge stream that's coming in. So I don't know how that's going to affect the audio, but it's like a constant hiss. So that hiss isn't the gear. It's this beautiful waterfall coming into the picture. So we'll set up now and see how it goes. I'm all set up and everything's in order now, so my water's out, my paints are out, and I've done a little sketch of the scene. Now, it's a really complicated scene, and I'm slightly concerned that I've bitten off too much than I can chew here. It's so complicated, and one of the things with watercolour is that you need to keep it simple. Keep it simple is a mantra, and I haven't done that today, so I'm a little bit worried that it's not going to work today, because there's so much in this scene. It's so complicated and it's such a big piece of paper. With the complexity of this picture, I had to do a little sketch of it. I could not, because the composition is so tricky, and I'm moving things around a little bit, so I want to work that out in my sketch. So that's the little sketch there. So things have been improved, or I don't want to say improved, but sort of moved around a bit just to fit in. So I've got a rectangle and I need to fit things into it. So that's the conclusion I've come to. So I've transferred my drawing onto the main piece of paper now, and I'm just contemplating where to start. And where do I start here? It's really, really tricky. So I think I'll probably start with the mountain and work down a bit. So I'm going to work broadly everywhere and then get it to a point that I can actually see what's happening and then refine it with a bit of luck. So here goes. So a little of ultramarine blue on the mountains. I've started to lay in the washes and working down the picture. There's a readiness to the landscape at the moment, which is really nice. Autumnal colours, and working down into all the scenes. So I've got to be really careful here because this is where the stream's coming in here, so that's a change of colour. A few patches of yellow ochre coming in. Photographers everywhere now. Don't blame them. So trying to capture all the rocks in this foreground. So there's a big rock here. Now, one of the problems, this is a bit of an experiment today because it's really winter time now, and one of the problems with watercolor this time of year is that things don't dry in the same way. So we'll see what happens really. So it might work, it might not work. Drying times are really important for watercolor. You need to sometimes paint on a drier surface. Just going to work on a little bit of the water now. So it's a bluey greeny colour, and I might sort of emphasize it a little bit more. So it sort of steps down like and then it goes down into the bottom. It gets quite dark when it's still. So it sort of pools a bit and stays quite dark. But I still want to get that sort of slight bluiness into it, just to indicate that, you know, this is water. So a greeny water. And it flows down there as well. Stepping in. Just to give that sense, hinting at things all the time. When you paint plein air, you've got to realise its limitations, and I have to realise my own limitations as well. That, you know, it's a difficult thing, and painting a big sheet and to try and apply a lot of detail, that's not the way to go. I couldn't do it. So there's water to the left of it now. In reality, the water is quite a yellow colour, but I want to. It's going to be difficult for me to say that that's water if I painted the colour. So I'm trying to make it a bit bluer to give the audience a sort of sense of that's water. So it's clear to everyone I'm painting water here. The art of painting is really interpretation, and how you interpret a picture is really important, and you have to hint at things and make things a bit better and move things around. That's the art of painting. One of my favourite quotes by John Singer Sargent, who said very little. He wasn't a guy to talk much. He wasn't a good public speaker. He didn't articulate words particularly well, but he was a genius at painting. But he didn't really talk much. He didn't really give any lessons. But the one lesson he did give, or the one comment that he did give, which I often think about, is that one day he was asked, "Mr. Sergeant, why do you paint so well? Why is it that you paint so well?" And he thought about it for a moment and he said, "Well, you think about painting like this, pointing at 12 o'clock, and I think about painting like this, pointing at 1 o'clock. So it sort of said to me that there was an interpretation, and I've thought about that for a long time, and it was a very perceptive comment. You have to think about that. It's pretty much dry now. Just going to get rid of some of my water from my palette. It's pretty much dry enough to work on the second coat now, and this is the refining coat. So I'm going to start at the top and work down, but I've got to bear in mind that I've got to keep spaces available for the trees that go in the foreground. So some of that might be a bit of gouache paint going onto it. Right, so time to attack the mountain. So ultramarine blue and burnt umber, maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson. There's a little bit of red in those rocks. And lots of blue. And they sort of scatter down. Still not quite dry enough. The problem of watercolour in wintertime, it just doesn't want to dry. I'll be painting more oils in wintertime really, just because of the problems of drying times. But I'm planning a big trip to Europe and Spain, which will be specifically watercolour only. So all you watercolour fans who like watching watercolour, there's plenty of watercolour to come. Trying to get the scree, the sense of movement coming down. A bit darker in the top right. A little bit of alizarin crimson as well, just to warm it up a bit. Yeah. It's a wonderful mountain. Love it. Now we're going to introduce a little bit of yellow ochre and raw sienna to give the colours. The colours here are fantastic at the moment. It's mid-October, no, it's mid-October, and the colours, I've never seen such colours before. So if you ever have a trip to Scotland, well, this is the time to come. The colours are golden, whereas in winter time, in the full winter time, they become like a browner colour. So that's the lovely autumnal colours coming in, and now it comes down to a greener colour, darker colours here. I asked my wife a minute ago you need to start recording again, and she said, "Have you got something to say?" And I say, "Well, I've always got something to say. I've always got something to say about painting." So it was a silly question, really. So I'll come down now to the green. I'm just like my dad. My dad had always something to say as well. Darker colours now in the midground, because there's suddenly the land just drops. So I'm trying to put that in now, and it's much darker. So it really gets very dark. And what's good about, we've got this rock here, and now I'm going to place darkness behind it, and it's going to bring that rock forward. So you'll suddenly be able to see this rock. Isn't that clever? Really like that. Called negative space. So now that rock's coming forward. Working along this dark patch now, all these little rocks are coming in. So I'm trying to describe the smaller rocks now. I'm trying to work out in my mind because it's so complicated. I sort of get lost. Can't quite remember what's happening. Trying to change, the ground turns a bit redder now. Really amazing colour now. Maybe that's too red, maybe a bit bluer. So you put a piece of, you may make a mistake, but that you can correct those mistakes and make them a little bit, you can change it around. I love the way that watercolour sort of moves into each other as well. Then there's a very dark piece here. So this second layer is really trying to show you a little bit more value range. And when I say value range, what I mean is the range of light and dark. In Britain we call it tone, the tonal range. But in America and France they call it values, which I prefer. I think it's a much nicer word. Top of the rock. There's some sort of moss on this rock coming in. Trying to just describe it. Changing colour. And it gets a bit darker at the bottom. So I'm trying to keep the highlights. I don't want to lose it into the background. And that's the waterfall coming down in there. I'll have to put some white paint in that later. So now it's really a question of picking out the little details, really, the value range. So that rock's in front of that bit of water, so the water's dark behind it, darker here. Just trying to pick out those little pieces that try and describe what's happening. And it's so complicated, these rocks, so I've got to find a way of simplifying them. And then the rocks go into the foreground. This is my problem part here. That's the part that's really going to give me a bit of problems later on. Oh my God. It's starting to rain now, so I just panicked, and so I've made it go vertical. I've got a bit of card out the bag just to cover it for a moment. You can see the little splash marks on it, so I'm really hoping that's going to clear any second now, but we'll see. You see the little rain bits? Rain can destroy a picture in 2 minutes, 1 minute. Oh my God. That was terrible. That really wrecked it underneath there. Oh, I didn't even notice it. But there's Tanya. She's been very good with the photography today.
And I've got my gloves today.
And she's got her gloves. What a relief. There you go. You can still see on the board that I put a bit of cardboard over the top, and that's the rain sprinkling onto it, and that's enough to ruin a painting. Tanya's kitted herself really well today. Those socks are something else. We've been hanging around here now for about an hour, and it's been covered, got a bit of cardboard on it. And cardboard's quite good really, because you can actually see it very clearly if it's raining. And all the spots, it just hasn't gone away. It's just, I don't think it's going to stop. So we might have to call it a day on this one, which is really unfortunate. The painting was going pretty well, and I was just getting to the point where it was beginning to come out from the mess of it all, and I was getting the sort of finer details, and I was about to put the trees in and make the water a lot better as well. So that's one of the things about watercolour. It's very, very difficult in dodgy climates, and Scotland is a dodgy climate. It's especially in Glencoe and the Highlands. It's very wet, rains a lot. And the further west you go in Scotland, the wetter it gets too. So this is why painting and switching over to oil paint is probably going to be the best idea for the winter. But it's just the way it goes really, and we've got to change in order for change with the weather really. So hopefully in the next video we'll be painting an oil painting, and if it starts raining like this, it won't be any bother at all. Like I say, it's still raining quite hard. Not hard, it's not hard for normal situations, but it's hard for a watercolour. So I'll pull it up just so you can have a quick look about how it was. That's where I got it to, and you can see how the little spots of rain has sort of upset it. So, you know, it's not a good idea to start painting in the water in rain. But that's how it went. I was going to have a tree coming up here. It was beginning to come together. But there we go. I will post it still, because I feel that it's important to realise with painting that it doesn't always go well. It doesn't always go to plan, and we just have to sort of grin and bear it at times. But I think it's important to realise that that was a fly flew into my eye. I think it's important to realise that we've got to carry on and go for the next painting. So hope you enjoyed that. It was a beautiful location though. I really loved that location. And if you can subscribe to me, that'd be great, and possibly give a thumbs up and maybe make a comment. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.